Hey there. Have you ever received a birthday gift that completely changed everything? This story is about love, trust, and how sometimes the most unexpected surprises come from the person who knows you best. Want to know what my husband planned for my 33rd birthday? But before I tell you, I need your support with this one. Opening up about moments like these takes courage, but your presence makes it easier. If you want to be part of my journey of unexpected surprises, hit that subscribe button. Let's discover these special stories together. Turning 33 wasn't something I'd been particularly excited about. Birthdays in your 30s feel different. They're quieter, less about parties, and more about subtle reminders that life is moving along, whether you're ready or not. But James was determined to make it special. James was my rock, my steady hand in a world that often felt chaotic. We met in college at NYU, me with my head buried in books and him with that goofy grin that somehow made the worst days bearable. He had a way of making everything seem lighter, easier, even when life was anything but. Our marriage had been good, really good. In fact, sure, we'd settled into routines like everyone does. Saturday mornings meant coffee and pancakes at our Brooklyn apartment. Sunday evenings were for binge-watching our favourite shows on the couch. And the bedroom, well, it wasn't what it used to be. But I didn't mind. Not really. It's not that I didn't miss the fireworks, the breathless urgency we had in our 20s, but I'd always thought of love as something that grew deeper over time, trading raw passion for something steadier, more enduring. And James, he was worth it. His loyalty, his kindness, the way he always seemed to know exactly what I needed, even before I did. If you asked me how I felt about him, the answer was simple. I adored him. James was the kind of man who left sticky notes on the fridge, reminding me to smile on bad days. He still opened the car door for me after a decade together, and when he said, "I love you," it wasn't just words, it was a promise he kept every day. We had built a life together, one that wasn't flashy or extraordinary but was ours. He was the person I could sit in silence with, knowing everything was exactly as it should be. Still, there were moments when I wondered if he missed what we used to have, the passion, the spontaneity. I'd catch him looking at me sometimes, his eyes lingering just a little too long, like he was remembering something. But he never said anything, never pushed. "Are you happy?" I'd asked him once, lying in bed after another uneventful night. "With you always," he'd said, kissing my forehead. And I believed him. When James started dropping hints about my birthday gift, I didn't think much of it. He was always thoughtful when it came to celebrations, planning little surprises or whisking me away for weekends at cosy lodges in the Adirondacks. "This one's different," he said one evening, his eyes glinting with excitement. "You'll never guess." "Is it a puppy?" I teased, watching as he shook his head with a laugh. "Better than a puppy," he said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. I smiled, letting him keep his secret. Whatever it was, I knew it would be special because it was from him. When my birthday finally arrived, James was practically buzzing with excitement. He insisted on taking me out to our favourite Italian restaurant in Little Italy, New York. A cosy spot with checkered tablecloths and the best lasagna in the city. We laughed over shared memories, clinked glasses of wine, and lingered over tiramisu. He looked at me the way he used to when we first met, like I was the only person in the room. For a moment, I forgot about routines, about the slow drift of time. It was just us, and it was perfect.
"Ready for your gift?"
he asked as we walked to the car. I raised an eyebrow.
"You're not giving it to me here?"
He grinned, shaking his head.
"Nope. It's waiting for you at home."
The way he said it made my stomach flutter. A mix of curiosity and something else I couldn't quite name when we got home to our Brooklyn apartment. James took my hand and led me upstairs to the bedroom. His excitement was contagious, and I couldn't help but laugh as he made me close my eyes. "Keep them shut," he whispered, his hands warm against my shoulders as he guided me into the room. I heard the door click shut behind us, and then there was a silence that felt heavy, charged. "Okay," he said, his voice softer now. "Open your eyes." When I did, it took me a moment to process what I was seeing. A man stood by the bed. A man I had never seen before. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and completely naked. His skin glowed under the soft light, muscles rippling with every subtle shift of his stance. He looked like he had stepped out of a fantasy, something too perfect to be real. "James, what is this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. James stepped in front of me, taking my hands in his. "I know this is unexpected," he said carefully, "but I wanted to give you something different, something you deserve." I stared at him, my mind racing. What are you saying?" "I've seen how you look at me sometimes," he continued, his voice steady but laced with vulnerability. "I know things aren't what they used to be between us, and I love you more than anything. I just wanted to give you something you'd never forget." I turned back to the man by the bed, who stood there quietly, his expression unreadable but not unkind. My cheeks burned, and my heart pounded in my chest. I stood frozen, my mind a swirling mix of shock, curiosity, and hesitation. My husband's words played on repeat in my head. "I just want you to feel free, to let go for once." "But, James," I began, my voice trembling. "This isn't us." He cut me off gently, his hands steadying my shoulders. "I know, and I'm not asking for anything other than for you to try. If it feels wrong, we stop, but you deserve to feel alive again." His eyes searched mine, full of trust and hope. I turned to the stranger, his gaze warm but patient, as if he understood my inner turmoil. The sight of him strong, self-assured, and breathtaking made my stomach flip. The idea was so wildly outside anything I'd ever imagined for us. Yet something deep inside me stirred, a longing I hadn't felt in years. My thoughts wrestled with each other, the love I had for my husband, the security of our life together, and the burning curiosity about what could happen if I let myself step beyond those bounds. "I don't know," I whispered, biting my lip as I glanced back at James. He reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from my face. "I'll be here with you every step. Trust me." Taking a deep breath, I nodded, though my heart still pounded like a drum. I took a shaky breath, meeting the stranger's steady gaze. There was no hesitation in his eyes, no second-guessing, just a raw confidence that made my heart race. When I nodded, barely perceptible, he stepped forward, closing the gap between us in an instant. His hands found my waist, firm and commanding, pulling me toward him. My breath hitched at the sheer intensity of his touch. He didn't ask for permission. He didn't need to. It was as if my body had already answered for me. Leaning into him, craving the unfamiliar heat radiating from his skin, he tugged me closer, his fingers deftly working the buttons of my blouse. Each one came undone with slow, deliberate precision, and the cool air brushed against my skin, making me shiver. His gaze didn't falter, roaming over me as though committing every inch to memory. James stood nearby, silent but present, his eyes locked on us. There was something unspoken in his expression, pride, maybe, or satisfaction. It sent a strange thrill through me, knowing he was watching, wanting this for me. The stranger's hands moved to my skirt, the fabric slipping easily down my legs, pooling at my feet. He ran his hands up my thighs, his touch firm, exploring, as though savouring the texture of my skin. My breath quickened as his lips found my collarbone, the light scrape of his stubble igniting a trail of heat along my skin. The stranger's movements were unrestrained, every action deliberate but forceful. He lifted me effortlessly, setting me onto the edge of the bed as his lips claimed mine with a fierce urgency. His kiss was rough, consuming, unlike anything I'd ever experienced. His hands gripped my hips, thumbs pressing into soft flesh, guiding me against him as his body moved with a primal energy. The fabric of his shirt brushed against my bare skin, the sensation almost maddening. I reached for him, fumbling with the buttons, desperate to feel him. He pulled back just long enough to yank his shirt over his head. The motion quick and impatient. His chest was broad, defined, his skin warm beneath my fingertips as I ran my hands over him. The air between us was electric, heavy with anticipation. When he pressed me back against the mattress, his weight pinned me in place, grounding me in the chaos of the moment. His lips found my throat, trailing down with a hunger that made my pulse race. His hands roamed over me, mapping my curves, his touch firm and unrelenting. The sound of the bed creaking beneath us punctuated the rhythm of his movements. His strength was undeniable. The way he held me, moved me, as though I weighed nothing. His grip on my thighs tightened, guiding me to meet him, each motion rough but deliberate. The room was filled with the sounds of our bodies moving together, the sharp intake of breath, the quiet groan of the bed frame, the muted slap of skin against skin. Every nerve in my body was alight, every sensation amplified by the sheer wildness of it all. He didn't hold back, his movements powerful, almost overwhelming. It was like he was claiming every inch of me, his hands gripping, his lips trailing fire across my skin. My nails raked down his back, leaving faint red lines in their wake, and he growled low in his throat, the sound vibrating against me. The pace quickened, his strength unwavering as he moved with an unrelenting rhythm. My body arched instinctively, responding to every rough, deliberate thrust. The mattress shifted beneath us, the noise blending with the low, guttural sounds escaping his lips. It was intoxicating. This raw, untamed energy that left me breathless, trembling beneath him. Every touch, every motion, pushed me closer to the edge, the intensity of it all unlike anything I'd ever known. As the heat reached its peak, he slowed just enough for me to catch my breath. I lay beneath him, my chest heaving, my skin slick and flushed. His hands still roamed over me, slower now but no less deliberate. I turned my head, meeting James's gaze. He was leaning against the wall, his chest bare, his breathing uneven. There was a hunger in his eyes, but also something deeper: love, admiration, pride. "Come here," I murmured, reaching a hand toward him. James hesitated, his gaze flicking between me and the stranger before climbing onto the bed. I pulled him close, my hands running over his chest, feeling the familiar strength beneath my fingertips. His lips met mine, tender at first, but deepening quickly as the connection ignited. The stranger didn't pause. His grip on my hips was commanding, his movements purposeful, each one drawing a sharp gasp from me. James's touch became more assured, his hands exploring my curves as if rediscovering every inch of me. The juxtaposition between them, the stranger's raw intensity and James's steady tenderness, sent a rush through me, leaving me dizzy with sensation. "Beautiful," James murmured against my neck, his voice husky with admiration. His words grounded me, even as the stranger's strength and rhythm pushed me further into uncharted territory. The air in the room grew thick. Each sound amplified the rustle of sheets, the soft creak of the bed, the rhythm of our breaths mingling into a symphony that seemed to echo in the space between us. The stranger's hands slid down to my thighs, lifting me effortlessly as he adjusted his angle. My body responded instinctively, arching into him, every motion perfectly in sync. James was there, his hands steadying me, his lips trailing warm, lingering kisses along my collarbone. "You're stunning," James whispered, his voice strained yet full of awe. The stranger's movements remained unrelenting, each motion deliberate, as if he were sculpting the moment. My breaths came faster, matching the energy coursing through the room. The tension built in waves. Every sensation amplified the press of the stranger's chest against me, the soft scrape of James's stubble as his lips found mine again. It was unlike anything I'd ever felt before, wild and raw. A perfect storm of passion and connection that left me trembling. The stranger's strength was palpable, his every touch leaving trails of fire across my skin. James's tenderness provided a perfect counterpoint, his gaze filled with a quiet intensity that only made me want him more. The bed creaked beneath us as we found a rhythm, their movements harmonizing in a way that felt both chaotic and perfectly orchestrated. The stranger's touch remained firm, unyielding, his grip on my hips steady as he guided me. James's hands traced softer patterns, his lips finding mine before trailing down my neck and shoulder, sending shivers racing along my spine. The room seemed to pulse with energy, every breath, every sound adding to the intensity of the moment. The stranger's strength was a force I couldn't ignore, his hands mapping my body with a rough urgency that left me breathless. James's voice was soft, but insistent as he murmured praises against my skin, his words grounding me even as I felt like I was floating. Together, they created a push and pull, a perfect balance of wildness and intimacy that left no part of me untouched. The bed frame groaned beneath us, a quiet reminder of our surroundings, but the world outside faded into nothingness. All that existed was the fire between us. Each touch, each movement pushing me closer to the edge. When the final wave broke, it came with a release so powerful that I felt every part of me unwind, a rush of warmth and satisfaction washing over me. The three of us stilled, our breaths mingling in the quiet aftermath. When I woke the next morning, James's arm was draped over me, his warmth a comforting presence. The stranger had gone, leaving behind only the memory of the night before. As I lay there, staring at the ceiling, I felt a strange mix of emotions: gratitude, exhilaration, and an undeniable sense of fulfillment. James stirred beside me, his eyes meeting mine with a sleepy smile. "Happy birthday," he whispered, pressing a kiss to my forehead. "Best one yet," I replied, my voice soft but full of truth. The days that followed were different, though not in the way I expected. The memory of that night lingered like a secret we both carried, a quiet spark that changed the air between us. Over breakfast the next morning, as we sat at our small kitchen table with sunlight streaming through the window, I caught James watching me. His eyes held a question, one he didn't voice right away. I sipped my coffee, the mug warm in my hands, and waited. "Was it okay?" he finally asked, his voice low, almost cautious. "I mean, did I push you too far?" I set my mug down, reaching across the table to take his hand. "James, it was intense, but it was us. You know, you made it okay." He exhaled, a small smile breaking through. "I just wanted you to feel something new. I wanted us to feel something new." His words hit me harder than I expected. This wasn't just about me, it was about us, about shaking up the routine that had settled over our marriage like dust. I squeezed his hand. "It worked," I said, my voice steady. "But we need to talk about what happens next." We spent that weekend at home, not in the Adirondacks, but in our cozy Brooklyn apartment, talking more openly than we had in years. I told him about the rush of that night, the way it had woken something in me I thought I'd buried. He admitted he'd been nervous, worried he'd misread what I needed. "I saw you drifting," he said, leaning back on the couch, his arm around me. "Not away from me, but from yourself. I wanted to bring you back." His honesty disarmed me. I'd always thought of James as the steady one, the anchor. But now I saw how much he noticed, how deeply he felt the subtle shifts in our life together. We talked about what we wanted, not just in the bedroom, but in our marriage, our future. Did we want kids? A house outside the city? More adventures, like the ones we used to chase in our 20s? The questions poured out, and for the first time in a long time, we didn't shy away from them. Over the next few weeks, we made small changes. We started going out more, not just to Little Italy, but to new places: a jazz club in Harlem, a rooftop bar in Manhattan, a quiet bookstore in Greenwich Village, where we'd read passages to each other. James surprised me with a cooking class one evening, where we laughed over our failed attempts at homemade ravioli. It wasn't about recreating the intensity of my birthday night, but about rediscovering each other, piece by piece. One evening, as we walked along the Brooklyn promenade, the city skyline glittering across the river, I stopped and turned to him. "You know," I said, leaning against the railing, "that night changed something, not just for me, but for us." He nodded, his hand finding mine. I felt it too, like we remembered who we are. It wasn't all perfect. There were moments of doubt, late-night questions about whether we'd crossed a line we couldn't uncross. I wondered if James would ever feel jealous, if the memory of that night would cast a shadow. But every time I brought it up, he'd pull me close, his voice steady. "I'm not jealous," he said one night, his lips brushing my ear. I loved seeing you like that, alive. Fearless. It made me want you more. His words settled something in me, a fear I hadn't realized I was carrying. We started being more open, not just about our desires, but about everything, our fears, our dreams, the little things that annoyed us. I told him how I sometimes felt trapped by our routines, how I missed the spontaneity of our early days. He admitted he worried about growing older, about not being enough for me. Those conversations, raw and unguarded, brought us closer than any grand gesture could. We didn't talk about the stranger much after that night. He was a catalyst, a spark. But he wasn't the point. The point was us, James and me, rebuilding something stronger, more honest. We started planning a trip, not to a cabin but to New Orleans, a city we'd always talked about visiting. We wanted music, food, life, something to shake us out of our comfort zone again. Months later, as we sat in a crowded cafe in the French Quarter, jazz spilling in from the street, I looked at James and felt a warmth that went beyond love. It was trust, gratitude, and a quiet excitement for whatever came next. That night in our Brooklyn apartment had been wild. Yes, but it was also a gift, a reminder that love could be steady and wild, safe and daring all at once. All. So, was my husband's gift too wild, or was it exactly what we needed? I'm dying to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if this story made your heart race, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. I've got so many more wild surprises to share with you. Until next time.